Today I'm going to talk about the best accessory movements that you could be picking to flesh out your program in Jiu Jitsu S&C and why you'd pick those over other movements. So in this video I'm going to talk about what movements you should select, why you should select them, and why they might be the best for you versus other movements. So accessory lifts are a really important part of training, as well as your key lifts, your plyometrics, your warm-ups, etc. Particularly for Jiu-Jitsu, which puts a lot of load on particular regions of the body, the accessory lifts are a really nice opportunity to target those regions in your training. Oftentimes, because we're doing accessory lifts, at this point in the session, we've done our warm-ups, we've done our plyometrics and our ballistics in this instance, and we've done a lot of our key lifts. We've now moved to the part of training that is more than likely going to be higher rep, some endurance work, more of a hypertrophy focus within the session. And here is going to be a really nice opportunity for us to work on some specific regions. Because Jiu-Jitsu particularly offers such a myriad of really weird, challenging positions to our body, we can really find a lot of benefit here in our accessory work. For example, your adductors, your neck, your shoulders, your forearms, your calves are all regions that are gonna have to work in Jiu-Jitsu and can really benefit from some specific accessory work. One of my favorite regions to train, without a shadow of a doubt, in the accessory movements is going to be your lower back. I really feel like your lower back gets a particularly rough time in Jiu-Jitsu, and after we've done our key lifts in the training, now is the time to address this region specifically. I am an enormous fan of the 45-degree extension. I'll put some footage in here of me or one of my athletes doing the 45-degree extension. It is one of the only machines that I have in my gym, and I'm an enormous fan of this machine for a number of reasons. One, it's a highly accessible movement. It's not like a glute ham raise, big intimidating machine that people don't really want to get into, or a reverse hyperextension where I have to swing something and again are quite intimidated by that. I really like the 45-degree extension because a lot of people are conservative with their lower back, and you put them on a 45-degree extension, it seems a really safe movement because it is. And I have had so much success with Jiu-Jitsu athletes that come through the door with weak lower backs, and we just make them do 45-degree hyperextensions for about a year, and then a lot of their back problems magically go away. And it's not like it's some sort of magic solution, it's simply that they were quite weak there beforehand, we exposed them to a large amount of volume there, and now they're much stronger. And as a consequence of that, they are much better off on the mat with a much stronger lower back. And if there was one thing that I could wish upon anyone that does Jiu-Jitsu, it's to have a stronger lower back and an understanding of how to train it, because I myself have suffered lower back issues in the past that took me off the mats for 6 months at a time. And I know a huge amount of people and I've dealt with a huge amount of clients that have had similar issues, and I really hate to see lower back issues taking people off the mats. Lower back pain is a really complex topic and really complex science, and we're not really sure even why it happens. It can be really hard to pin down, particularly with Jiu-Jitsu, and there's a lot of flexion, there's a lot of loaded flexion with rotation. It can be a really, really challenging sport to train on your lower back. So I'm a big fan of incorporating these movements into the training, and my personal approach is that we take the athlete through the 45-degree extension or similar movement where we're isolating lumbar flexion and extension. Then we're going to progress the athlete to what I call integrative patterns, something like a Zercher RDL, which is going to force the athlete to go into this same flexion and extension position in the lumbar region while going through active flexion extension at the hip. And I think what this is going to help the athlete do is understand the contribution of the hamstring and the glute on the lower back to hip extension, and to make sure that they bias using their hamstring and their glute. Because oftentimes in Jiu-Jitsu, we're going to be standing people up, we're going to have to be doing hip extension even when we're rolling around on the ground trying to finish submission, get sweeps, etc. And it can be really nice if people understand that their glute and their hamstring should be much more contributing to that than their lower back should. So big fan of incorporating this style training into your accessories. Definitely get that one done. Alright, if you're watching the video and you're thinking, yeah man, that's great, but if you could just give me all of this in a program, that would be really good. I've got you sorted. If you go to the link below, you're going to find the Ultimate Training Week, where I've put all of this into an actual training program that you can just go to the gym and do. It'd be easier, wouldn't it? And you can get that at the link below. There's videos for all of the exercises, so it's really clear on what you can do. You can get stuck into that straight away. Okay, back to the video. Alongside that, we're going to take a look at the neck. This is another region that just gets a brutal time in Jiu-Jitsu, particularly if you train a lot of Nogi. Train a lot of Nogi, you're going to be doing a lot of stand-up, you're going to be doing a lot of hand fighting, you're going to be getting your head snapped down a lot, and then you're going to have to deal with guillotines, darces, etc. And I find that in Jiu-Jitsu, in the gi particularly, you can kind of keep your opponent away from you a little bit more, and it's more a quality of grabbing the lapels than it is grabbing the head. But in Nogi, it tends to be that you're going to grab your opponent's head and attempt to kind of create some connection here if you're going to pass, etc. So training your neck is a really, really good idea. My favorite way to approach this is that we start off with neck curls. We get a neck harness, they're not expensive, and we start doing neck curls, similar principle to explore range of motion at the neck. We want to explore range of motion at the neck because again, people tend to be quite weak and conservative when training this particular tissue group. And more than likely, there are people that have not been exposed to this type of training before. So we want to get them nice and comfortable with some neck curls, big range of motion movement. Then as they become more comfortable with this, we start to do some integrative patterns, once again, like a neck hinge, where we're taking the athlete and we're getting them to perform active hip flexion and hip extension, like I said, but this time the neck is performing some action in that movement as well. Here, we're just using it as a stabilizer, and we're getting it to resist flexion at the neck and at the skull. Personally, I really like these, and I found with a lot of my athletes really like these and report that they feel really strong in their wrestling and resistant snap downs when it comes to these movements. I know it's not the sort of thing that's going to happen overnight, but if you add this into your training, you build the prerequisite strength in the neck, you add this style movement in over time, you overload it with dumbbells, kettlebells, cables, be safe, train your neck, it's still your neck, so be safe training there. But you can definitely train it up, you can definitely make it a lot stronger, and you can definitely feel the difference on the mats. And then another region that I wanted to mention was going to be grip strength. To my surprise, when I started training Jiu-Jitsu athletes, I thought all the Jiu-Jitsu athletes that would come through my door would have really good grip strength. But truthfully, a lot of them didn't, and I found that we were able to build a huge amount of grip strength in those athletes, and then they found that this translated really nicely onto the mats. So we don't have any particular things that we really like to do for grip strength, because I feel like you get a lot of it if you're doing a lot of pull-ups and a lot of RDLs. But there are some specific things that we do by the same token, and I'm going to run through some of those. Like general carry work, having to just hold something for an extended period of time is a really nice way to train your grip. And then we're a big fan of hangs as well. Again, just having to hang your own body weight off a bar is a really nice way to just train that grip up, and then you have the double benefit of this being really nice for the shoulders as well. Oftentimes people will come in and Jiu-Jitsu athletes will complain of being kind of tight in the back and the upper back and in the shoulders. So if we can train the grip and we can kind of decompress some of that upper back and that T-spine region as well with the hanging, great. Now, having really good accessories is vital to having a well-equipped training program for Jiu-Jitsu S&C. But maybe you have some limitations specific to you because of old injuries or reasons that you can't do these movements. And that brings us on to our next topic, which is going to be robustness, which is dealing with old injuries. How do we deal with that? So it's all well and good having the training program outlined, but what if old injuries rear their head? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk through my robustness strategy and something that you can do to approach current and old injuries.